Hi, my name is Mike Anderson. I'm a Warbirds of America director. I've been a director for 15 years now. Um, I originally, started flying Warbirds maybe 20 years ago when I had my own T6. Got into the formation world and, kind of through the formation world, met a lot of new guys. Actually, went to a clinic, met Rick Siegfried, and Rick asked me to come on. Would I be interested in being on, on the board? And so I did, and here I am 15 years later. Bill Harrison, one of my mentors, longtime Warbird member, one of the probably real close to original guys in Warbirds of America, if you will. I had a talk with Bill and I said, Bill, why do we do this? He said, well, Mike, here's the thing. We really, if you think about it, have had really no voice in Washington, D.C. And I don't think people realize what we as Warbirds of America do and represent for our community in DC, because they for sure don't understand. And like Bill told me, there was a time when the FAA wanted to shut us all down from flying any kind of Warbirds. And had it not been for the efforts of Paul Poberesny, and some of those early guys, we might not be flying them today. So I don't think people really realize that aspect of, Warbirds of America, and what we do. Then, we provide, during Air Venture, we have our Warbird area, and, which we get a lot of people that come through our Warbird area, and we have significantly improved our facilities, what we do, the activities. Connie Boland came up with Warbirds in Review. It has just been a huge success for years, and people and the work that Connie has done to produce that and to get that going every year. So many people look forward to that event where they can actually see a World War II ace. They can see the planes. They can see the people that restored the airplanes and hear the story and, all of that. So I think that's a huge deal. We just have a lot of things going, and really, I tell everybody it's summer camp. I go every year. I love to go every year to see my friends. It's as much as a social activity as anything else, because it's all pilots. We all have our passion for aviation, then obviously our passion for Warbirds. And so it's a big deal. And I mean, even when I went to Oshkosh for my very first time over 20 years ago, it's like, I got to go back, because there's no way you can see it all in one trip. It's just so many things, to do. So I think it's a special event, a special place. I think we're a special organization, and we want to keep it going, and we want to educate the younger generation. We want to honor the past generations and our heroes and the people that fought for this country and gave their life for this country. That's what it's all about. And, during World War II, we became the greatest industrialized nation in the world, and we all came together, which, as bad as I hate to say, we can't do now, but we all came together because we had a war to fight. And that made us the greatest industrialized nation in the world. So that's a long, maybe a long answer to your question, but that's kind of how I feel. So my uncle was a pilot. He was in the Navy, and he didn't fly in the Navy, but when he got out on his GI Bill, he got his license, and he was a pilot. And when he would come back to town, we'd rent a Cessna and go flying. So that probably started my passion for airplanes. Another fellow that went to church with us, he patrolled pipelines, flew a Super Cub, and he took me for a ride in this Super Cub. So in 1976, when I graduated from high school, my mother and father took us to Pearl Harbor. We went to Hawaii. And I've always been a World War II history buff. I like history. I like World War II history. Um, I've seen all the movies, love all the movies. The World War II movies are just the greatest still yet to today. Anyway, so we went to Pearl Harbor and we went out to the Arizona Memorial. They had a little old tiny, kind of a boat they would take you out there on, and you could tour. And when we were going out to the memorial, a little like Cessna 150 was flying over Pearl Harbor, and I said, when I get back, I'm going to start taking flying lessons. So in 76, I started on my private pilot's, license, got my license and everything. And then throughout the years have got all of my ratings. And, I really got them all right here. And I wasn't in the military or anything. So all of my ratings, I got right here in Muskogee, Oklahoma, at our field. I've got an ATP rating. And so probably around 1996, the guys that owned the FBO wanted to retire and sell out. And I am actually the third owner of the FBO on our field since the government gave it to the city. It was a World War II base. In the 60s, when I was in kindergarten, we came out and did a tour when I was in kindergarten it was a Air Force base. Down the street, the commander of the Air Force base, his son was my best friend, and his dad was the commander of the base. And I do remember I was really upset when they transferred my best friend's dad to Tinker, and he went to be the commander over at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City, and I was so mad because he took my best friend away. They had the old C-119 flying boxcars out here, so it goes back to that history, and it just kind of fueled, I guess, my passion. Then they actually had B-25s here. They have what they call the F-7, which wasn't a Tiger Cat. It was the reconnaissance version of the P-38 was based here. And we've got some pictures hanging on the wall with, those sitting out on the ramp. Another interesting fact about our airport, I'll tell you real quick, is the HBO movie, The Tuskegee Airmen, that was made. Had Cuba Gooding Jr. in it, and Lawrence Fishburne, and all of those guys. It was filmed here in Muskogee. So all of those hangar scenes that you see is our big World War II hangar that's still here today, still up, still here today. So all the hangar scenes and everything, and most of the filming was done, right here in Muskogee. So that was a big deal. That was in the mid '80s, early mid '80s. And how I got personally into Warbirds, my cousin flew the CAS Corsair, and he came here for an air show one year, and we kind of rekindled our friendship and everything else. He was an airline pilot, but he flew the CS Corsair, did Acro. Well, he needed to get his Acro card renewed. So Steve Gustafson was here, and many of you may know Steve. He's Aeroshell Team, one of the founding members of the Aeroshell Team, and my cousin knew him. And so I told my cousin, I said, "Man, I'd like to ride in one of those T6s. Man, I just love those T6s." And he said, "Well, I'll get you a ride." So I went with Steve, and Steve actually observed my cousin doing his aerobatic routine from the air and to renew his card. Well, I was riding with Steve. Well, after that was over, Steve practiced his full air show routine with me in the back. And I just kind of fell in love with Warbirds at that time, and I really always wanted a T6. So I asked my cousin. I said, "Hey, what I got to do? I want to start flying these Warbirds." He said, "Well, you got to get some tailwheel time." So about a week later, I owned a 90-horse Super Cub with no electric to get my tailwheel rating. So I flew it around a while. Then I bought my first T6 and kind of went from there. We'd go to the CAS formation clinics, would go to NATA clinics, got my formation card, got my wingman card, my lead card. Then eventually I was a fast check pilot. So, we'd go to, and just the formation community in general really is intertwined and gets everybody, kind of together, and you meet your friends from all over the country at the formation clinic, and we would all go, prior to AirVenture and practice our formation and big formations and do that. So, I don't know, gosh, I've got, over 1,000 hours of just T6 time. So that's kind of where my Warbird, flying started, was formation flying the T6 community. And then it kind of, went from there. I started flying the P4. Actually, before that, I'm sorry, I flew the Missouri Wings Big TBM Avenger. And then after that, the P40, and then Bob Baker asked me to fly his other P51 Mustang, Sweet and Lovely, which is a whole nother story we could talk for hours on, that whole experience and that deal about, Bob's two P51s and the story behind that. So I've just been very fortunate in the right place at the right time. I own this FBO. We have a maintenance shop, avionics shop. I fly corporate. Do a lot of corporate flying in the kind of specialize in the Honda jet, go over and do all of that. I tell everybody, when you're in the aviation business, you got to have 2 or 3 jobs. So I stay pretty busy, but I look forward every single year to going to AirVenture, being around my friends there. It's just a special event, and I carve that out on my calendar every year, and I'm there all week long and enjoy it and see all my friends. Well, obviously, we need the next generation. When I came in, I was a young guy and the kid. Now I'm an old crusty dude. I'm one of the old guys now. And the guys that were my mentors are kind of pretty much all retired now, basically. Um, so we need the younger generation. We need them to get interested in, you know, the history and our warbirds, and everything else, because that's going to be what's going to sustain this, later on. So I would encourage the young that have a passion for aviation to either, maybe find an EAA chapter to try to get involved with. Um, if you're already a pilot and flying and have an interest, find out, go to the NATA website, the CAF website, find out where a formation clinic is going to be. Go to air shows, talk to the pilots. Um, Everybody will talk to you. We need those young, get a tailwheel rating, learn what your feet are for. That's the main thing. Um, a lot of people will ask me, hey, what does it take to fly, the fighters and stuff like that? Well, really nothing counts but T6 time. So whatever you can do to graduate and fly in a T6, fly a T6 and do, that's the valuable time to move to the next step into the fighters. So just go hang around, be involved, and be at the right place at the right time, and your time will come. But we need the younger generation to be involved. Go to AirVenture, talk to people, just be around, and we need those young folks. We to keep this going. The greatest story that I could tell would be my involvement with Bob Baker and his Mustangs. Bob Baker lives in Alva, Oklahoma, which is I'm in eastern Oklahoma, he's in western Oklahoma. Every January the 1st, if the weather was good, we would host a fly-in the first day of the year for the Warbird guys, and we'd cook chili and hamburgers and hot dogs and everything. And if the weather was good, we'd do flower bombing. We'd do, whatever we could, do. Well, Bob would come to those and he'd bring his Mustang. Well, when Bob was building Little Rebel is one of the most authentic restorations. And so Bob said, hey, can I go through your bolts in your shop? He said, I'm looking for original bolts. An original bolt had NA stamped on them, North American. He looked for rivets that didn't have, in World War II, there was not an identifying mark on the rivets. So Bob's plane was so original that they used World War II basic rivets that didn't have the identifying mark on it, because that's how they were built then. So that's how extreme he went with Little Rebel, to make it as authentic as he could. So that's when Bob and I became friends. Well, when he was finishing up Little Rebel, just by mistake, somebody else was supposed to fly Sweet and Lovely as the other P-51 to Oshkosh. And he called me and he said, look, that deal fell through. Would you fly my Mustang to Oshkosh? I said, yes. so he said, I'd just like you to go and just do some air work, just see. He said, I don't care if he's in the front, in the back, just do some air work, feel it out. He said, you fly a T6, a Mustang, it'd be fine. I said, okay. So I called I was flying corporate and I was in Atlanta a lot. So I called my buddy Jim Buckley, who's, you know, the wing commander or whatever you call it down at the Atlanta wing, and he flew Red Nose, the CAS P-51. I said, "Hey man, I'm coming down. I need to go for a ride because I'm gonna fly Bob's P-51." He said, "Hey, it's just coming out of annual. If you'll buy the gas, we'll go up and you know you can feel it out." So we did that, and I rode in the back with Jim Buckley. We did some air work, stuff like that. Then I would call all my heroes and my mentors about that flew P-51s, you know, Steve Hinton, Stuart Dawson. I called Larry Lumpkin. I called Mark Henley. I said, "Okay, I'm getting ready to get to fly. What can you tell me?" So they said, you know, "Hey, with your T6 time, it'll be fine. You don't need to go over 45 inches on a go around because it ain't got enough rudder, and never let it get slower than 120 unless you got the nose pointed down and get to land." So, you know, they just gave me some good advice on, you know, what to do. So, you know, I did that. You got to understand the history of these two planes. So when Bob built Sweet and Lovely, he contacted a guy and said, "Look, I need you to do some research. I want to name my airplane after a veteran. I want him to be alive, an ace in World War II, and a guy of good character." So the guy did his research and he came back and he said, "Well, Bob, I've got you figured out." But he said, "There's a problem." Bob said, "Well, what's the problem?" He said, "Well, there's two of them." He said, "Two of them?" He said, "Yeah, the Patillo brothers. Bill Patillo flew Sweet and Lovely. Buck Patillo flew Little Rebel. They were both in the 352nd Blue Nose P-51 Mustang. They're called the Blue Nose Bastards of Bodney. They were both aces in World War II. They both retired as brigadier generals, and those are the two guys that started the Thunderbirds. Not only did Bob paint Sweet and Lovely up and won Oshkosh Grand Champion with Sweet and Lovely, he immediately started looking for another project to build Little Rebel. So Bob built Little Rebel to honor Buck. And so he was, again, going back, he was taking both to Oshkosh, and he had the brothers there at Oshkosh when we got there. So this was a special deal. And Scott, if you don't have the picture, it's my screensaver on my phone, but it's Bob and I in formation with the brothers in the back. I tell everybody the highlight of my aviation career was Bob asking me to fly the Mustang. And then, you know, I got to fly to Oshkosh and getting to meet the brothers. They were just two of the finest guys I've ever met in my life. Now, you would think, I mean, they're 80 something years old, and you would say, "Man, tell me some of those stories, you know, tell me some of your stories." "Oh, you don't want to hear an old man talk, you know." No, you don't understand, we do. Well, you'd get them talking and telling stories. It was just unbelievable, the stories that they would tell, and so interesting. Connie, when we got there, Connie had them in Warbirds in review that year. It was like they were rock stars. Everybody knew that they were coming, and it was one of the biggest Warbirds in review we've ever had. Then the next year, we really pulled off a good one because we had them back the next year, and we actually had two of the Thunderbirds in Warbirds in review. They were going to go fly at Milwaukee, and I actually got that arranged. Teddy Rux, who's the Thunderbird coordinator, is a friend of mine, and I told Teddy about this deal. I said, "Man, we've got to get this and have the brothers there." And we got it all arranged and got it done. It was probably one of the biggest Warbirds in review we've ever done. It was just incredible, and it was an incredible experience to hear the brothers talk on how they started the Thunderbirds. this is why Warbirds in Review is so popular and so great, and what Connie has built that to and done with that, because a lot of people don't know these stories. They don't know the behind the scenes stuff. They get to see and touch the airplanes. They get to see the World War II pilots and all that. So it's, again, that's in our Warbird area, you know. That's why I think, we just keep growing, and obviously we want members to, so we can keep that experience going in our Warbird area. And so I think that's why a lot of us, do this and have done it for a long time, is because we want to make this a special time and event for everybody. And Bob Baker, he's a classic example. Got his pilot's license, went to AirVenture, got to see a P-51 Mustang, and he said, I think I want to build one of those. Didn't know anything about it, and he built his first P-51 Oklahoma Miss, which one? Oshkosh. So just being around, being involved, it is just a big deal. Yeah, the flight sim building is new. I think we're in our third year possibly with it, to come up with it. We got donations. We built the building. We got donations for sims. But we felt like, and Harold's vision was that that's how we can maybe get the youth involved. So we get them in the simulator, we get them in our area, maybe we get them interested in flying, whether it be Warbirds or whatever. So that was kind of the, the vision, and it's been a huge success. And, let's talk about the tram. I mean, the tram has been a huge success, where people can get on, drive through, the Warbird area, get a tour with an announcer and stuff like that. So that's been, a big success also. We got to think of AirVenture, it's an experience. And when you go there to experience all this, and Bill Fisher was real instrumental in bringing the reenactors, so we have the reenactor area. So we get this whole, it's an experience to come through the Warbird area. And we get a lot of people, obviously, through there, and we operate on donations and everything else to do this. And we have such wonderful donors that have helped and made Warbirds, what it is today. And without those, very special donors and all the volunteers that we have, it just takes so many volunteers. We have the best volunteers ever in our Warbird area. They're passionate about it. They love what they do. They're there year after year. And we are so thankful for those volunteers, because we couldn't do it without those volunteers. And so it's just such a special time for everybody. I mean, I'm getting excited for July's, to show up. I mean, it's summer camp. I've been going for about the last 20 years. We stay in the same house with the same group of guys. And like I say, it's summer camp, and we have our little routines that we do, our places we go to eat that we have to visit. And so it's just a very special time. And I just encourage everybody, get involved. You'll have a hoot. You'll have a blast.
Warbirds.